This is Nathan Gerby of the Carolina Hurricanes, and you're watching the Power Play Break, the place to talk about pucks.
Chris Riley back here in the Power Play Break. John, let's get into some fun things now with the Canes. What's been your best moment with that team?
My best moment had to be in '06, right? The Stanley Cup. That was certainly a great moment. The moments I cherish the most are when we retire numbers and they ask me to MC and do that. And I'll tell you why, because I have the utmost respect for every player that plays in the National Hockey League, because you know how difficult it is to get there. When they play for the Carolina Hurricanes, it goes up a notch because you get to know them and you get to see what their impact, no matter what level the player is. But when you have great players like Ron Francis and Rod Brindamore and Glenn Wesley, we have those nights, and they ask you to do that. To me, that's a lot of responsibility, because now it's up to you to navigate through that ceremony without screwing up. Because if you screw up, you've just screwed up a guy who's played 23 years or so.
Yep.
In Ronnie's case, a Hall of Famer, you know, and people are going to remember the guffaw, right? So there's some pressure with that. Those nights, and if the player comes up to you and tells you that it was really special, thanks so much, that's very rewarding. But certainly the Stanley Cup, I mean, June 19th, 2006, that was off the charts.
Chuck Caton, the radio voice of the Canes, was
right.
He got that 9,000 whatever games, whoever, and all the years of frustration are over now.
Well, yeah, but personally, being in the booth with him, because I did color for that round, because television, local TV's out by that point. Yep. So I did color with him. I worked with him through the playoffs that year. Did the game that night, but my son was right with me. We had my wife and my daughter were in the seats with our tickets, and there wasn't a place for my son. So my son was 7, I think, at the time, put on a suit, red tie, sat right next to me, didn't budge the whole game. And when the game was over, I get choked up. He just looked at me and he was just bawling. And that's why that was special for John Forslund. Obviously, the Stanley Cup is great, but and then he got to go in the locker room.
Drink for the cup.
He doesn't even remember. He doesn't
he
was sitting on Cam Ward's lap, and he doesn't even remember this stuff. It was, you know,
okay.
Well.
Now we're going to shift gears away.
Talk to him someday about it.
I will. If you could travel back in NHL history or time in sports, what's one game you'd like to call? Any game that you've watched over the years. You know, you talk about different moments. Would you like to be the announcer for that game? Would you like to say, I'm going to put the John Forslund moniker or stamp on it?
I don't know. That's interesting. I would probably say one of the games of the Summit Series in '72, because that was a dark enemy coming in to play, unknown. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that had a place. The other games, like multiple overtime games and
like
all of that.
4 overtime game with the Capitals. And
that could still happen.
Yeah, I know.
You know, so that might still happen, and that's a game. And honestly, every game is big for me. So tomorrow night's game, as we do this, you know, Carolina's here to play down. That's a big game for that moment. So, but Russia, Team Canada, 1972, that would have been neat. Because who are these guys?
Yeah, you don't know.
Right? You don't know.
Worst thing to happen to you calling a game? Kenny Albert had some really funny things that happened.
I got into a fist fight with a mascot in Sherbrooke, Quebec one year. I laid out the mascot. It's true. The mascot in the playoffs, and I think it was '89, decided to come up at the Sherbrooke Sports Palace, a little 4,000-seat arena, a little booth at the top of the rink, and he sat right on my table, right in the middle of the game, and he sat there and was making faces and these gyrations and whatnot, and I asked him to leave, and I kept calling the game, and he kept doing this, and he got right in my face, and I hit the table, and he wouldn't leave, and the security wasn't doing anything about it, so I just got up right in the middle of the play and laid him out, and I kept calling the game. And
did you wind up in trouble?
And then the security came, and the fans, they stood up, and, hey, you know, they were pointing at me in French and saying things, and I was into it, man. That was the playoffs. That was.
What's the funniest thing that happened to you on the air?
The funniest thing that ever happened to me on the air was the night the mascot, we rolled out the mascot in Greensboro, Stormy the pig, the fictitious ice hog, as they say. but it's a pig, okay? And anyway, it's a long story. I don't think we have enough time to go into it, but they had stuffed him in the Zamboni with dry ice, and they wanted to bring him out to center ice in the spotlight and introduce Stormy. We were playing the Red Wings. It was the second preseason game ever in North Carolina. And we're on the radio that night, and they had the oldest pig caller in the state of North Carolina commandeered to stand in the corner and yell "Suey." And this guy was yelling "Suey" at the top of his lungs. And they opened up the Zamboni, and the PA announcer said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Stormy." And the poor guy was almost asphyxiated, and he almost died.
My God.
Yeah. And so the Zamboni guy went like this. They closed the lid. They got him out. The pig caller was still saying "Suey" in the corner because he's 87 years old. He didn't even know what building he was in, right? And so he was doing that, and we were on the air doing this. And then Kenny Cal, the voice of the Red Wings, leaned over and says, "I think the guy's dead," which is funny now. But it almost happened.
I mean,
so that was.
You ever wonder who comes up with those ideas in marketing? Like,
yeah, well,
hey,
that guy lasted about 2 weeks after that promotion, and he was gone.
What do you do when you get away from the game?
Just
Family time
be with my family.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
nice.
just, my kids are 17, 16, and 10, so we're very busy with them. It was a long year last year. I got to work all the way through the Stanley Cup final. So I was gone 59 days during the playoffs, home 1 day. So the summertime is all about them.
I asked Nathan Gerby this. If you had one superpower you could have, what would it be and how would you use it?
Oh, that's easy for me. The Invisible Man. I'd like to be, sure, why not, right? I could be in the locker room and hear what really goes on. I could be in the coach's office and find out who's scratched. I have to watch the warm-up or whatever we do to figure out who's in the lineup. Being invisible would be great. I'm sure there's a lot of people would like me to be invisible. So that would probably be it.
What's the best part about being in the NHL?
Oh, the players are the best part because the kids are all great kids. And it sounds so cliche to say that, but they are unbelievable people. I can count on maybe a couple fingers the bad apples over the years that you just, even those guys, you can come up with an excuse or say, yeah, but here's a moment. But by and large, that's the people in hockey make the game. And now the people that used to play that coach and the GMs and just the hockey people, it's a community. Everybody that's in the sport absolutely has the same passion the fans do, if not more. And I think that's what's so great about hockey, because how can you get through all these mishaps, right? You have these lockouts and everything that's happened over the years, and the game comes back. It's because of the game. It's because of the players. The players are fantastic.
Toughest part for you?
The toughest part for me is remaining objective, which is one of the things I try to do. Doesn't please a lot of people. I think when you watch a Hurricanes broadcast, you know which side of the coin I'm on, okay? But I hope that I'm doing a job that's fair for the fans that are watching. And I don't like to disparage people. I don't like to berate officiating. I don't like a slanted broadcast. I try to do it that way. I hope it comes out that way because I truly believe in that.
When you flip over to NBC, you have to try and be more objective there, right?
I try to do almost the same job. That's why I think it's important, because I think if you do it the same way all the time and you're consistent, you won't have an issue when you go do that. If you're lucky enough to do those games, you won't have an issue when you make the switch. So that's what I attempt to do. Some of the phrases that I use that are very big down North Carolina, those phrases will not show up on national television because little Johnny boy won't be around anymore, you see?
Yeah.
But some of them work for that market, work for that team, and there's an identity. That's why I do those.
Now, it's been noted that you've been credited with inventing sideburns.
That's not true.
It's not true.
And you can't see them anymore anyway. They're all gray. So.
How did you come up, though, with the catchphrases? I mean, guys today, everyone's vanilla.
Yeah.
And it seems like the older broadcasters still have a style. And,
Yep.
and we talked about Joe Bowen. He has a lot of great catchphrases. I mean, how did you just decide to come up with them?
Honestly, they're all natural, with the exception of one. Everything that I like, that's hockey, baby, right? I think I said it once on a great play. It sounded good. People liked it. And now I use it only on a perfect play, a tic-tac-toe. We won't use it a lot. Might use it 3 times during the season, okay? But that one just came out by accident. Says No came out by accident once with Artur Zerbe. Used it a lot with him. Now we have Cam Ward. You got a great goalie to say that, but that's one. But hey, what do you say? Is a special one for me because when I use it, I only use it on goals that close the game out for me. Sometimes I'll take a chance, 8 minutes left, I'll take a chance if I think it's over. Most of the time it's a deciding goal in overtime or whatever, but it's a direct tribute to my dad, who used to say it all the time. He'd meet you and he'd say, Chris, hey, what do you say, right? He used to say it. He used to say that when he coached me when I was a little boy. And the story is, in January of '85, after I'd interned with the Indians and got my first paycheck, brought it home, I was still living at home, and I wanted to show it to him. He passed away that night. And I was there for it, the whole 9 yards. And anyway, it was a few months later on the bus, driving somewhere, where I said, you know what? I'm going to use that phrase somewhere. And I started using it in the minors. And when the team had success, the paper picked it up, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then I came to this league. I was apprehensive about using it. Somebody told me, go ahead and let it fly, and I did. And, you know, that's why I say
People
that.
come up to you and use it, like
Yes,
when they meet you on
they
the,
do.
on the street and say, hey, what do you say?
They do. And my good friend Eddie Olczyk always says it. So he loves it. He loves it. He texts me that all the time. And, you know, I haven't said it this year yet, though, even though the team's
Tomorrow
off to a
night?
decent start. But
Tomorrow
there
night?
hasn't been a moment yet, so maybe tomorrow night, yeah.
Well, I want to thank you very much for
This
your
has
time.
been a pleasure. Thank you.
I mean, I'm glad you came on. We'll have to have you on in the future. But that's going to do it for this edition of the Power Play Break with John Forslund. Our thanks as always. We'll see you soon.